Hello everyone. Now let's see the chapter of administration. This is very simple chapter. No question will come from this from this chapter. And it's basically self-read, but let me just read through it and you'll understand. Firstly, section 3, officers under the Act. Administration means the administration, how the department, the GST department, who will be the officers and what will be their powers. That's it. So it says the government may by notification appoint the following classes of officers for the purposes of this Act. Now do you expect a question to come on this? Okay, what are the different classes of officers appointed in the Act? No, but this is for general knowledge. So let's see. Principal Chief Commissioner or Principal Director General of Central Tax. Now see, this is the topmost officer, like CEO of a company. Principal Chief Commissioner or Principal Director General. Now Chief Commissioner and DG, CC and DG, these are of the same rank. So they are given in A, means they are of the same rank, but they are of the two different wings. We have got in all three wings in the department. One is the assessment wing or the adjudication wing, who adjudicate the matters, decide the matters, assess the tax payable by the assessees. So the assessment wing is headed by Chief Commissioner, and if there are two or more Chief Commissioners in one department at one place, then one will be Principal Chief Commissioner and the others will be called as Chief Commissioners. So you have got A and B, Principal Chief Commissioner and Chief Commissioners. Okay, so Principal Chief Commissioner is one step above the Commissioners. So you'll have Chief Commissioner, and this is one wing that is called as the assessment wing. Then you have got investigation wing. There's investigation wing in the department, and the officers there, the main role of these officers is to investigate the tax evasions and all the other things. So that office is headed by Principal Director General. So the office is called as DG, Director General, and if there are two or more DGs, one will be called as the Principal DG and others will be called as DGs. So Principal Chief Commissioner, then you have got Chief Commissioner or Director General, then you have got Principal Commissioners or Principal Additional Director Generals. So this is one wing, assessment wing, and this is parallel wing called as investigation wing. Okay, so Principal Commissioners, so below Chief Commissioner is the Principal Commissioner, and then Commissioners, and here it will be Additional Director General, then Additional Commissioner, Additional Director, this is Additional Director General, ADG, and then below him is AD, Additional Director. Then Joint Commissioners, Joint Director, Deputy Commissioners, Deputy Director, Assistant Commissioner, Assistant Director, and any other class of officers as it may deem fit. Provided that the officers appointed under the Central Excise Act of 1944 shall be deemed to be the officers appointed under the provisions of this Act. So all the earlier was there was Central Excise, and now it has become GST. So all the officers who are already operating there are automatically appointed in GST. So no one has to leave his office. They are all brought forward, carry forward, brought forward. Okay, from old Act to the new Act. So these are the top to bottom hierarchy of the department. So you can read two times and that's it. Then appointment. Who will appoint them? The board. The board may, in addition to the officers as may be notified by the government under section 3, appoint such persons as it may think fit to be officers under this Act. So apart from the officers appointed in section 3, the board also has the power to appoint more officers, the peons and the staff and the stenographer and the typist and this and that. And without prejudice to the provisions of subsection 1, the board may by order authorize any officer. So board can also appoint, and board may authorize the officers like Additional Director General and all those to appoint their officers also, to appoint lower ranked officers. Referred to in clause A2H of section 3, to appoint officers of Central Tax below the rank of Assistant Commissioner for the administration of the Act, means the peons and the staff and the typist and the computer specialist and so on and so forth. So they will be appointed by the officers themselves. Then powers of the officers. Subject to conditions and limitations as the board may impose, an officer of central tax may exercise the powers and discharge the duties conferred or imposed on him under this act. So later on when we will see the actual sections, then we will see that some power is to be exercised by the deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, or by the director general, or this or that. Similarly, an officer of central tax may exercise the powers and discharge duties and conferred or imposed under the act on any other officer of central tax who is subordinate to him. Means superior officer always have the powers of subordinate authority. Like CC can do everything which the commissioner can do, but commissioner cannot do what CC can do. So the below ranked officer cannot do the work assigned to the higher rank officer, but higher rank officer automatically has the powers of lower ranked officers. And the commissioner may, subject to such conditions and limitations as may be suggested in behalf by him, delegate his powers to any other officer who is subordinate to him. Commissioner has the power to delegate his powers. So if he himself delegates, then yes, the assistant commissioner or the deputy commissioner can also do that thing. And notwithstanding anything contained in this section, an appellate authority shall not exercise the powers and discharge the duties conferred or imposed on any other officer of the central tax. So as I was telling you, there are three wings. One is the assessment wing. So in the assessment wing you have got all these chief commissioner, principal chief commissioner, then chief commissioner, then principal commissioner, then commissioner, and then so on and so forth. Then you have got the investigation wing. So investigation means the principal director general, then director general, and then so on and so forth. And then the third wing is called as the appellate wing. It's called as the appellate wing. In appellate wing you have got the commissioner appeals, deputy commissioner appeals. So here the appellate officers are there. Officers who hear and decide appeals. This we'll see later on. Now the point is that if an officer is an appellate authority, he cannot exercise the powers of assessment wing officers. Okay, so he cannot do anything which the officers can do. The appellate authority shall not exercise the powers or discharge the duties conferred or imposed on any other officer. So these are the other officers, the investigation wing officers and the assessment wing officers. So the officer who is of the appellate wing cannot exercise the powers of these officers. Okay, so his job is only to hear appeals, that's it. And then section 6. Authorization of officers of state tax or union territory tax as proper officer in certain circumstances. Now since it is an integrated law, there will be central tax officers. The old excise department has become the central tax. Similarly, the old VAT departments of states have become the state GST officers. So you have got state GST officers, you have got central GST officers, the union territory GST officers. So then there can be conflicts, there can be conflicting provisions, who will do what. So for that there is section 6. What it says? Without prejudice to the provisions of this act. So without prejudice means if there is any other provision of the act that will guide us. But if there is no such provision, then you have to follow this. The officers appointed under the state GST or the UT GST, okay, are authorized to be proper officers for the purposes of this act, subject to such conditions as the government may on recommendation of the council notify. Means the state officers are also empowered to carry out the responsibility under central tax, provided the government doesn't object to it. So they will prescribe the areas where the state officers can also exercise powers under the central act and the central officers can exercise powers under the state act. So it will overlap. So they will divide the powers amongst themselves basically. Then subject to conditions specified in the notification issued under subsection 1, where any proper officer issues an order under this act, means CT, he shall also issue an order under ST or the UT Act as authorized by the State Goods and Service Tax Act or the UT Act, as the case may be, under intimation to the jurisdictional officer of state tax or union territory tax. So if somebody is in the jurisdiction, like Farooq Haque comes in jurisdiction of the Central Excise Department, and if Central Excise Department, I mean to say the old Central Excise Department, which has now become the CT, Central Tax Authorities. So if they issue me a notice under the Central Act, it will be deemed that notice is also issued to me under State Act or the Union Territory Act, and an intimation will be sent to them that the central officer has issued the notice. And where a proper officer under the State Goods and Service Tax or UT Act has initiated any proceeding on a subject matter, no proceeding shall be initiated by the proper officer under this Act, means CT. So if ST officers have issued any intimation, have taken any proceedings, then CT will remain silent. If CT has done something, the ST will remain silent. So they will not conflict with each other. Are you understanding the point? If CT officers have initiated something, then ST people will sit quietly. If ST has issued some intimation, then CT will remain quiet. And any proceeding for rectification, appeal and revision wherever applicable of any order passed by an officer appointed under this Act shall not lie before an officer appointed under the State Goods and Service Tax Act or Union Territory Goods and Service Tax Act. Means if the original order is passed under, or CT officers you can say, is passed by CT officers, then the appeal or revision you can say, or rectification, will also be done by CT officers only and not by the state officer. So if the original order is of CT, then appeal, revision or rectification will be done by CT officers only and not under the state or UT. That's it. Those are the simple 3-4 sections. You have to just read once and forget. That's it. So simple chapter, not to worry about it. There will be hardly any question on this chapter in the exams.